Hey there, viewers. This is Clint Lanier with Bucket List Bars. If I'm anything like you, or if you're anything like me, I am going absolutely stir crazy here with COVID lockdown. I can't get out. I can't make any new videos of historic bars. I can't travel. All the things I love to do. Can't go get a cocktail. All that's kind of off the table. All I can do is hang out here with my rabbits behind me and kind of slowly go through my my whiskey collection. And that's what I'm going to do today. I just figured since I was bored, can't make any videos or anything, spend a little bit of time looking at some of my prized whiskey bottles here. So bear with me. You know, when I started this in 2013, I never thought it would get as big as it did. The book did incredibly well, and the videos have done incredibly well. And because of that, I got hooked up with the Huffington Post and a lot of other publications and was able to actually spend some time as a legitimate journalist going around sampling whiskeys and being flown around the world and taking to different distilleries and stuff like that. And I also got sent a lot of stuff. I drank a lot of it and wrote about it, did reviews on them, but a lot of them I didn't. And so I've got some that I want to talk about today, starting with this one. This is Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is barrel proof, 112.8 proof. Comes from the Wild Turkey Distillery in Kentucky. And this one's pretty special. In 2016, my co-host Derek, and I got flown out to what's called the Bourbon Trail, which starts in Washington, D.C. at Mount Vernon. It was George Washington's distillery there in Mount Vernon. And then flew from there down to Nashville. We went to the Dickel Distillery. And then from there we went to Jack Daniel's Distillery, and then drove like 8 hours into Kentucky and went to sorry, my rabbit's digging a hole. Anyway, then drove about 8 hours into Kentucky and went to all the distilleries in all through Kentucky. And it was a lot of fun. Had a great time tasting bourbon. I don't think I've had as much bourbon since then. And but we got to meet a lot of great people. And one of the persons that we met was named Jimmy Russell. And Jimmy Russell is the founder of Wild Turkey. So when we went to go visit it, found Jimmy there. His son Eddie was there, and they were nice enough to sign this bottle for me. That's why I've never really opened it. I've got Jimmy Russell's signature right there. I've got Eddie Russell's signature right there, and pretty proud of that. So 2016, I don't think I'll ever open that one. Jimmy's just an amazing ambassador for whiskey and for all things bourbon. He calls us Wild Turkey because, called his brand Wild Turkey because he came up with it while they were actually out hunting wild turkey. He decided to come up with kind of a high rye bourbon recipe. And if you've ever had Wild Turkey, you'll notice it's a lot more peppery than some of the other bourbons out there, which could be really kind of high corn, which is like Jim Beam is, for example. But it's a great whiskey. That's one of my treasures in my collection here. Another one from that same trip is this Knob Creek single barrel reserve right here. This is 120 proof, small batch. Now this one, again, this was really special occasion because we got to tour the Jim Beam distillery from Jim Beam's great-grandson, Fred No, who's their master distiller with Beam Suntory, and one of the big brand ambassadors. And Fred's just an amazing person. If you haven't Googled him, go Google him. Watch some videos with Fred. He's delightful. He's full of color. He has some great stories to tell you, especially when you're sitting around eating dinner with him. But this bottle, they have them specially made for us. So this is engraved with Discus right here. And then at the bottom it says Media Trip 2016. So Discus is the Distilled Spirit Council of the United States, and they're kind of like the lobbying group for all things spirits, trying to get crazy states like Pennsylvania to loosen up their liquor laws and let people buy liquor in places other than state-controlled liquor stores and so forth. And they're the ones that sponsored this kind of media trip that Derek and I went on. And we went on it with a bunch of people, a bunch of other journalists, people from Men's Journal, and all, people from all over the world went on this. About 16 or 17 of us. It was a lot of fun. But this one was particularly fun because what they did is they had these bottles etched for us, and they took us down to where they actually do the bottling, where they fill the bottles, and we picked out a bottle, and we labeled it, and that's my little label right there. And we got to see it go through, see that bottle get filled, and then it got to the waxer. So there's a lady at the very end of the assembly line that actually dips each one of these bottles in wax, and so forth. So we got to see her do that, and then at the very end of it, the wax is still hot, and we got to put our thumbprint in it. Can you see the thumbprint right there? So that's my thumbprint. And then Fred, no, again, the great-grandson of Jim Beam, was nice enough to sign this bottle for me. So, again, this is a cherished treasure for me, and probably will never be opened. Breaking away from bourbon for just a minute. I know this is supposed to be about bourbon, but I want to highlight this one. This was sent to me a long time ago. So, gosh, I must have gotten this about 2016. So this was Lock, Stock, and Barrel's 16-year-old rye whiskey. It comes from the Alberta rye whiskey distillery in Canada. It's 107 proof, and produced and bottled by R.J. Cooper and Son. And the reason I kept this was their founder passed away when this thing was released, and I just didn't have the heart to break it open and drink it. He was much beloved in the spirits industry. Moving on to the next one is my Knob Creek. This was sent to me when it came out. So this is a 2001 limited edition. This is from batch 1. Knob Creek came out, I think, with 4 different batches of their limited editions, and it's basically a celebration of Knob Creek. It comes in this fine box, as a lot of them do, and distilled and bottled by Knob Creek Distillery, Claremont, Kentucky, which is Jim Beam Distillery essentially. But it's again, I don't know, it's just a bottle I've never really had the desire to open. And that takes us to the last one that I probably never will open. Pardon me for a moment as I whip this out. This one. This is Booker's 30th anniversary edition bourbon. Now, they invited me out there. Was it last year? Can't be last year. Maybe it was last year. In November for their 30th anniversary edition. I have no idea why I was invited, but they invited me out so I can go out there and hang out with Fred at the Jim Beam Distillery. We did a tour so we could see where his dad grew up. His dad is Booker No, and that's why it's Booker's Bourbon. That's where that comes from. So Booker No was Jim Beam's grandson. It was current master distiller Fred No's father. So he drove us around in a bus. I'm not kidding you, a short bus. We drove around. We got to see where Booker went to school, where he grew up. We got to see Jim Beam's house, which Fred lives in now. And we even got to go to the cemetery where Booker is buried, and it's the Jim Beam family is buried. Jim Beam is buried there. It was a crazy experience. And then after all that, we got to go drinking in Jim Beam's house, which was fantastic, at the kitchen table of Jim Beam, and drank some bourbon, had a great tasting experience then, and then went into one of the rack houses where they keep the whiskey, and we got to taste this 30th anniversary Booker's Bourbon. And it's not 30 years old, rather it was specially blended for the 30th release, and that's what this is. So that was really special. Fred No poured us each a drink, and we got to salute it, taste it, and it's probably one of the best tasting bourbons I've ever had. But there's a lot of things special about this. So the box, for example, now most Booker's Bourbon boxes are kind of that dark wood, like that Knob Creek that we just saw. But it has this, it would have like a kind of a plexiglass plastic cover on the front. You can see the bottle inside. You'll notice this is a little bit different. First of all, it says 30th, it says Booker's, and Fred signed it for me. It has my name engraved at the bottom. But you'll notice that the wood is, see how rough that is? It has this kind of hole right there. There's like a washer or something right there. Well, what happened is so those rack rooms were put up when Jim Beam was alive, so in the 1930s, maybe even before that, but they've been around for a long time, almost 100 years. And the floors of them were just ridden with termites, and they had to refloor the whole rack room. So they ripped all that old flooring out. Excuse me. Ripped all that old flooring out, and couldn't throw it away because it'd been around for 100 years. So they made these boxes out of it. So if you were to buy one of these 30th anniversary Booker's bourbons, the box is actually made from planks taken from the walkways of the old rack room. So they're easily over 100 years old. And we got to, excuse me, by the way, it's not Rona, I promise. But we got to go through and pick out our own box and say this is the wood that we wanted. So this is the one I picked out. It had kind of cool rough hews, as you can see right here. And I really like this hole. I think it was a washer or something, or a bolt went right there. Something else we got to do that I hadn't been able to do before was I got to actually seal this thing. So I put this little tassel on it myself. I put the cork in myself, and then it went through and it goes into this wax dipper, and they seal it and they dry it and everything. But this is the bottle that I did. So this one's really, really special to me. And again, I can't imagine me drinking it. Maybe if we got to, we have very, very few subscribers, which is fine. But you know what? If we got to 100,000 subscribers, I'd drink that one. I'd drink that 30th anniversary. I would probably drink that. I would drink whichever one you told me if we got to 10,000 subscribers. But anyway, again, going stir crazy. Just thought I'd do a little show and tell. Maybe I'll bust out some of the really kind of weird things that I've been sent over the years by different distilleries and manufacturers and so forth. They still send me stuff from time to time. I don't write as much as I used to, but every now and then they'll send me something kind of odd. So hope you had fun. We're going to get back to making some more travel videos and some more bar videos pretty soon. All right. Thanks for staying tuned. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, do all other stuff, and catch you on the flip. Bye.